Welcome to the Authentic You radio show, where we bring you stories that will inspire and empower you to unleash your authenticity. I am Vanessa Mclean, and today I've got no other than the most exciting, the most inspirational, the most authentic woman that I've come across recently on the lines with me. And I hope as she shares with you today, you'll be as empowered as I feel right now. SharRon Jamison.
I'm here. How are you today?
I am absolutely fantastic, especially when I've got women like you on the station.
Oh, thank you so much. Your sound is going in and out just a little bit. So if I have a delay, please forgive me.
That's okay. I can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have women on our station, especially where we are today, where we look at the families and families are breaking down, and a lot of women are heading the family. So before we even go any further, I want to find out, why is it important, especially now, to be a woman that soars?
That's such a good question. I believe right now that the culture is ready for women to walk in their feminine power. I think for so long, women have had to use the male paradigm to show their greatness or to show their strength. But I think things are changing, and I think the world is ready for something new, for something different. And I believe the shifting that we're seeing in business is allowing women to show up in a way that the market needs it. For example, women are great collaborators. And so when we look at technology and all the ways that women need to collaborate and to connect to grow businesses, is prime for women, because we are hardwired for connection. We are hardwired for collaboration. We are hardwired for consensus building. So I think the time is right for women to show up in their strength and show up in their power, and to really have a chance to activate those skills that we naturally and innately are wired to do, and that's to connect with people on a variety of levels. So I'm excited to see what's happening in the market with women right now.
Tell us a little bit about what you do right now in the world.
Well, I do a variety of things. First, I am an author, and I write books that hopefully not only empower people, but provoke people. Because I think sometimes we need to provoke people to be uncomfortable so that they really are encouraged to look at their lives more holistically and more honestly. I'm also a life coach, where I help people and work with people to strategize their lives and design lives that really make their hearts sing, and design lives that help them maximize their gifts so that they can operate more effectively and consistently in their strength zones. And when we are able to stay in our strength zones, we are able to contribute not only to our families, but to the world at large. And I'm also a minister. I'm a very progressive minister. And I believe that when we use our faith to elevate people politically and emotionally and spiritually and educationally and socially. I do a lot of work around those areas. And then I'm also a mom. I'm also a business owner, that I'm so happy to use all of my skills that I've learned in the ministry in a marketplace to bring those together to provide a different way of doing business based on ethics and spiritual principles, business based on being a heart-centered entrepreneur. So I'm really excited about all the ways I get to show up in the world, but they all center around one message. And that message is to help people be their best selves and to live lives of greater abundance and greater fulfillment by being authentically who they are. And so that's my goal. That's my desire. That's I think my holy commission is to help people be comfortable in their own skin so that they can contribute to the world in a variety of ways. So when I think of SharRon Jamison, I think of all those ways that I can come and support people to be who they really are and how they were divinely wired to be, versus being a shapeshifter or trying to accommodate who they are to fit into the status quo. And that's really important to me.
As I was listening to you, you mentioned something about the ministry. So I'm curious, how did you get involved in the ministry?
I cannot remember a time that I was not involved. And the reason being, my father is a minister. So I grew up in a household full of ministers and also filled with people who understood that ministry happened outside of the church as well as in the church. So my father was always involved in the community and used the ministry as a way to elevate people and empower people. And so I saw ministry from a different viewpoint. So I never thought that ministry belonged only in the church. I never believed that ministry was defined by one faith. I never believed that God was only in a male form. I always was taught that God was mother and father. So I'm a very progressive minister, and I'm able to use that broad foundation to connect with people. How I believe and understand faith is very broad, because I believe that God is everywhere, and that God is so God that God can never be contained by one religion, one denomination, or one practice. So I'm really excited about how I'm showing up in the world, but I cannot ever remember not being involved in the ministry. I was raised in it. I was reared in it. I was taught and told about it. And I'm excited how my understanding of religion has transformed, so that I understand that religion is not just about rules and regulations and rituals. It's about relationships with me and God, me and people. And that forms the cross. And I'm really excited about how I am understanding and continue to grow in my understanding of God.
It's super to hear that. As you were growing up, as well as being in the ministry, was there something that you, for even one moment, thought, this has to be my vocation in life?
Yes. I think very early, I saw great examples with my parents, knew that my life was beyond my own self-aggrandizement. So I never thought I was just living for me. I always had an understanding that I was a vessel. And so I used my own experiences of dealing with racism and sexism and being bullied and growing up poor that helped me understand what my divine message needed to be. I think that my experiences have shaped my message, but I always knew that I would be used as a vessel because that's all I saw. So I always knew that SharRon Jamison would be in ministry. SharRon Jamison would be a teacher, a preacher. I didn't know what I would be preaching, so to speak, but I always knew that would be part of the legacy or my divine calling. And so I'm really excited that I knew it at a young age. So what I had to do is go through my own healing process, my own life's journey, to gain the wisdom and the credibility to be able to serve people. And I've had a lot of hard knocks in my life, a lot of pain, a lot of failure, a lot of betrayal, a lot of sabotage, and some of it was self-sabotage that has shaped me to help people understand how they are sometimes getting in their own way of their own satisfaction and fulfillment. I'm really excited about my life journey. It was painful, but I think that I have used that pain and transformed that pain into power to be able to communicate from a place of knowledge. And instead of being a travel agent as a coach, I can be a tour guide, because I've been to a lot of hellholes in my own life and I know how to navigate out of them.
I like that. Some women, I would say all women, we don't ask for help. And you spoke a little while ago about self-sabotage. You've been through this hell place. Did you ever ask for help when you were there?
Oh, gosh. I asked for help many times in many different ways. Now, the challenge is when I was young and I was asking for help, because of the culture in the United States around therapy, even though I asked for help, I couldn't get help because it was outside of my religious understanding, my parents' religious understanding that God could coexist with therapy. So I asked for help many times, and I had to hit rock bottom in my early 20s when I felt suicidal, that I was able to push beyond my religious paradigms that I had inculcated to go get help because I needed help. I hit rock bottom. I was making a lot of bad decisions. I was picking a lot of bad people. I was sabotaging my career, but I've always have asked for help along the way. And even now, I'm very careful to always ask for help now, because even though I help people, somebody has to help me. And I never want to be a wounded healer. So I always reach out. I have a therapist now. I have my own sister circle now. I have my own mentor now. As I am helping people, people are pulling me forward so I can continue to have a well of experience and a well of knowledge that I can share with others. So yes, I believe in asking for help, and I constantly make myself available to ask for help. But I don't follow people like I used to. I used to follow people from a place of obedience. Now I follow people from a place of a student. So I'm always learning and taking in information and determining how that information fits in my life, how it fits in my values, how it fits in how I want to navigate in the world. So I never just drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak. I always make sure I analyze it and see if it fits my ethos and my values and also my spirit. And I think that's really, really important.
I think so. And I also think that's a recipe for a powerful woman. Let's hear about some of the more recent things that you've been doing. I know that you're an author, so let's talk about some of the 4 books that you've written.
Sure. The first book I wrote, Vanessa, was called I Can Depend on Me. And that book was about my struggles that I had growing up with racism and sexism and an eating disorder. And I talk about the 5 strategies that I needed to embark upon to heal my life, because I was miserable. Not only was I miserable, I was making everybody close to me miserable. So I talk about the journey, I talk about the strategies that I use to help me and to deal with the pain and manage the pain and move through the pain to get to the other side. So that's my first book. And the second book, I used my clients as the backdrop, and I used their experiences. What I did was I looked at what are some of the recurring themes that I saw consistently with my clients. And I wrote about those. I devoted a chapter to each of their issues. And I ended every chapter with at least a minimum of 10 questions to help people examine their own lives. I think Socrates was right when he said an unexamined life is not worth living. But sometimes we don't know how to examine our lives. We don't know how to peel the onion so that we can see the gems of wisdom that we have, the nuggets of wisdom that we have to really help us elevate our lives. So the second book was based on my clients and their experiences. And then I wrote a book called The Strength of My Soul, Stories of Sisterhood, Triumph, and Inspiration. And what I wanted to do was to allow 27 women to tell their story. And so I picked 27 women from all walks of life, all ages, all nationalities, all religions, all sexual orientations. And we talked about our stories of strength and how we were all able to reach down into the crevices of our soul to deal with challenging, hurtful situations. Some of the situations were tragic. And so I talk about that in The Strength of My Soul. And then my last book is called Deciding to Soar. And what I did was I wanted to find ways to give people quick nuggets of information, quick quotes, quick commentary. And so that book is a book of quotes and commentary that people can have messages that are easy, digestible, and applicable to their lives. And then I have 2 other books coming out. One is an anthology with Kim Fields from In Living Single, where women share their stories about the gifts in their lives. Another book is from a lady in Africa named Alex Okoji, 20 of us from like 10 different countries. And it's called I Bared My Chest. And we talk about how we were able to reveal who we really are at our core and the power of knowing who you are. And then I have my own book coming out, another book coming out, Deciding to Soar 2, as well as the 50 Life Choices to a Fulfilling Life. When I talk about there are 50 choices that people can make to help them set themselves up to have a life of abundance and a life of truth and a life of power. So all of my books are around helping people feel empowered, but my books always have strategies. I think so many times we see people provide books of ideas, and ideas are great, but it's so important to move from declaration to demonstration. And I hopefully provide some strategies so that people can move to demonstration, activation, and implementation of key principles in their life so that they can have a life that they desire and deserve. I think that's really important.
It is so important. One of the things I do know, SharRon, is that with the content that you deliver and share with women, you get them excited, you get them warmed up. But after they leave, what is it that stops them from soaring?
I believe in my heart that people need to give themselves permission to be successful. I think that some people are fearful of success. I think some people are overwhelmed with implementation. And that's why when I work with many of my clients, I ask them to concentrate on 1 or 2 things. So that's why I dare people to do it. I'm like, listen, I dare you. I provoke you. I challenge you. I call you out of mediocrity to be your best self. And so I think sometimes people need to be pushed. Some people need to be prodded. Some people need to be given permission. Some people need to be able to push beyond their own lids and limitations. And sometimes you have to dare people. You have to dare them with your words, dare them with their actions. You have to dare them with their own stories. Because sometimes our own stories are not even true. Sometimes you have to put it in their faces in a loving way, but to push them. Because I think people want to be successful. I don't think anybody wakes up every morning and say, oh God, I want to have an average, mediocre day. I don't think that happens. I think what happens is that we allow fear to shrink us. We allow culture to shrink us. We allow rejection and being ostracized and scrutinized to shrink us. We allow people to criticize us till we start to shut our mouths. I think there's so many reasons why we fail to stand in our power. But I think that it's important to dare people, to push people, to provoke people, to make them uncomfortable so that they can soar. It's kind of like a baby bird. Many times the eagle has to make the nest uncomfortable so the eaglets will fly. And if I can make people uncomfortable to make them fly, I have done my job. Because I know that in my own life, I'm grateful that people made me uncomfortable in my mediocrity. I'm glad that people made me uncomfortable in my pain and made me uncomfortable in my self-sabotage, that I had no other choice but to stretch and to reach and to grow and to soar. So that's my goal and that's my desire. And I'm hoping that people get provoked to be their best selves, because I feel that people limit themselves. And then why not risk failure? I'd rather risk failure than to die on my deathbed filled with regret. I want to have no regrets. I wanted to know that I have done and tried everything I wanted to try, good, bad, and ugly, so that I can lay my head down in peace. And I think that's really critical for people to know and to try.
I just love this. What was it like growing up in your home? I'm assuming with siblings and maybe your other relatives.
My home was an interesting place. Being raised by a minister and being raised in a very religious home. My parents were teenage parents. We were always trailblazers and pioneers. We were always the first Black family somewhere. And being a preacher's kid, it was very isolating. It was very alienating because people always used you and your family as the standard. So I learned very early in age how to wear a mask and how to tell half the truth. I had to unlearn that. So it was not, I want to say my home was not happy, but it was not fulfilling. I never felt like I was enough. I never felt that I fit in my family or fit into the communities in which my family lived. So I always felt like an outsider. I called myself a misfit, but that gave me a lot of courage. And then eventually I started to be okay and really embracing that I was different, that I thought differently, that I was not part of the norm. And when you really start to understand and liberate yourself, you're not only able to liberate yourself, but to liberate others, because only free people can free people. And so I always felt a little different. I'm okay with different. I'm 50 plus years old and I'm okay with being different and knowing that I don't fit any place. And if I start to fit, I know that I'm becoming too comfortable and I'm not really challenging myself because I don't fit. And so I'm okay being edgy and different.
This 50 plus is a great time. It's a second chance. And if you haven't done it in the first half, I'm sure there's time to create something exceptional in this half, SharRon.
Yes. And you say, it's so interesting. You say SharRon, but it's SharRon.
SharRon. I've got to say that right. It makes a difference.
Yeah. You know what? That's okay. I think my sister's name is Shaitan. So we're SharRon and Shaitan. And I think that people are like, my God, where do you get those names? We were born in the 60s. I mean, who knows?
SharRon, you offer a variety of services for people. So tell us why you do that.
Yes, I think it's important to offer a variety of services when you do healing work because people are so different. They have different cultures, different needs, different levels of awareness. They have different goals. And so I believe, based on my own perspective and also dealing with different clients, the more customized you can make a program, the more clearly you can touch the needs and the hearts of different people. Some people tell me I have too many different types of programs, but I don't think it's so. One of the things that are really important for me is to honor people in their uniqueness. And so even though I have a framework of programs, I still customize and have a variety of programs because I think what married people need may be different than single people. What a person needs in their 30s is very different in their 50s when they're starting again. I think it's different when people have to have had experience with abuse or addiction or long-term chronic diseases. I think that every situation has its own variables. If you really care about concentrating and addressing the needs of people, there has to be enough variety and enough customization to speak to their specific need. Because if we really think about it, we all have issues, our needs, our desires that sometimes are so deep that we almost have to go in with the precision of a surgeon having a scalpel to be able to address that need. And my goal is to be that surgeon with that scalpel, deal with people with precision and love, because I think people are worth it. And that's why I have a variety of programs. I want to make sure that the programs speak to their needs and speak to their hearts. And the programs are different because people have transformation differently. Some people are video learners. Some people are readers. Some people are reflectors. And when you're doing healing work, it's important to be able to allow different modes and different methods to be able to speak to their needs. And that's why I think a variety of programs are important when you do this type of work.
So how extensively have you been traveling to meet these wonderful people's needs?
I'm starting to do more online, more coaching, because technology allows you to see people. And I think that's really key. But I still make it a goal to at least once a month to do some type of live event in some city. People need to touch you. They need to hold you. They need to see that you're real. They need to feel your vibe. They need to feel your energy. I can touch more lives through technology, but I also know that it's important to touch lives in a more intimate way. So I do a little bit of both now. And just because that's the way the business is changing, to do one-to-many. And I really enjoy that anyway. I'm a teacher by probably my DNA. I think God wired me to be a teacher. And so I like teaching. And so it's really a way to connect with people. And I enjoy it and I love it. And I think you can never replace a touch with texting. You can never replace a touch with technology. And I think that's really, really key. Vanessa, one of my clients told me, I said, you're living in a hell. And she says, I know I'm living in hell, but I know my way around. That really penetrated me because I think a lot of people live in hell because they know their way around. And sometimes it's hard to let them know that something else exists. And so I saw this woman just become a person that she was proud of. And it's nothing like seeing a person who's proud of themselves and who has done the work, who invested the time and the money. And I think that's the challenge with so many people. They want transformation, but they don't want to put their treasure in the transformation. They don't want to put their time in the transformation. But transformation always requires time and treasure. And I think that's really important that people remember.
Tell us about your son.
I have a 23-year-old son who is just an amazing young man. I'm so proud of him because he's starting his own work in the community to help change the stereotypes or the perceptions of Black men. I never knew that he felt so passionate about it, but it lets me know that the apple doesn't fall too far from the cart. To witness his commitment to change and to alter the perception that people have of Black men is nothing short of extraordinary. And I think he's an extraordinary person. I think he's brave. I'm very proud of who he was because I did not probably raise him in a conventional way. I'm a rebel, so anything that's status quo, I'm going to push against it. I'm going to push against the status quo. I'm really proud of him. He graduated from college last year, and he's a journalism major. He's a writer. So the world has not seen what he's going to do, but I know that he's going to make a difference and leave a legacy because he's committed to service. And I think anytime you are committed to serving more than yourself, God can use you. And I'm so happy that he's open to being a vessel. I can't wait to see what God has in store for his life. I don't know about you, Vanessa. I still struggle with some of this technology, but I'm trying to get better about it because I think that if we're going to be global with our messages, and what you're doing is going global because people need to hear what we have to say, I have to get more proficient on a lot of this technology. So I'm excited about that.
Thank you for sharing that. There's one question I always ask everybody, and you're not going to get away without this.
Oh, good.
What does authenticity mean to you?
Yes. Authenticity means being comfortable in the skin that you're in, knowing who you are and knowing who you are not. It means to navigate in a world in a way that your head and your heart and in your hand align. Consistency means being congruent. It means being in sync with your soul. I believe that being authentic is a place of power. It's a place of vulnerability. It's a place of transparency. And it is the reason why people are able to connect with you. I think being authentic is a process. We are always on this journey of learning who we are and refining who we are and learning who we are not. I believe that we are always becoming authentic because we are always growing and we're always learning. We always are experiencing more of ourselves. I think the most amazing journey that we will ever take is the journey into our own soul. And when we are able to journey into our own soul, we will become more confident. And when we become more confident, we will be able to stand in that confidence, which will allow us to be more authentic. And so I think that self-discovery and self-exploration and self-love are the key foundation that allows people to be authentic. But I think it's important. I think it's beautiful. I think it's powerful.
SharRon, you give me goosebumps. When you look back on your life, what would you say to the teenager SharRon? What could you have done differently, or maybe what could you not have done at all?
I would look back on a teenage life and try to tell myself that I was enough, that I was strong enough, smart enough, pretty enough, popular enough. I spent so many years of my teenage life feeling deficient and feeling less than, that I did a lot of damage to my own soul. So if I can go back, I would try to convince myself and speak into my soul. I said, little girl, you're enough, just the way you are. You don't have to fit. You don't have to conform. You don't have to confine yourself. You don't have to beg. You don't have to plead. You don't have to be a people pleaser. You are enough. And I didn't know I was enough till I was 30 years old. But that's what I would go back to, that teenager, because I would have not abused myself and allowed other people to abuse me verbally, financially, emotionally, had I known that I was enough.
Thank you so much for sharing, SharRon. It's just been a pleasure having you on the Authentic You radio show. What do you want your lasting legacy to be?
I want people to know that she cared, that I worked hard to free people from their own internal demons, that I worked hard to help people see that they were enough, that I worked hard to make people feel liberated in their own skin, that they did not have to succumb to the norm to be loved. And if I leave this earth and I leave behind books and videos and messages that people can go back to refer to and be reminded of their own self-worth, their own self-love, their own self-importance, their God-given divinity, I would have lived well. That's my desire. That's my hope, is that I help people live well by loving themselves. If I do that, I know I will rest, hopefully in heaven, that God will say, well done. And that's important to me.
And I'm sure God is already saying, well done. SharRon, I've seen your work and it spoke to me, and it was so important to reach out to you. And here we are having this conversation today as women, trailblazers. Where do we find you?
Everything is on my website, www.SharRon Jamison, and that's SharRon Jamison. They can find me online on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. Everything is SharRon Jamison. All of my books, all of my offerings are on my website, and they can contact me on my website if they are interested in me coming to speak or interested in me doing a workshop. They can always contact me at SharRon@SharRonJamison.com.
And just remind us of your latest book, because I think that's a book which we all need to have in our hands.
Yes, it's called Deciding to Soar, 180 lessons to catapult your life.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, SharRon. It has been a pleasure, and I hope you'll come back again.
Oh, I will be so honored. Thanks so much, Vanessa, for letting me be here with you. I'm so grateful to you, and I look forward to having you on my platform. Thanks again for sharing with me.
Thank you so much. This is Vanessa Mclean on the Authentic You radio show, where we bring you stories that will inspire and empower you to unleash your authenticity.